buddy. Arm is getting stretched.
Gets the submission.
Want to thank me. To all the young people out there.
I'm here because of you.
How do I get rich?
You're going to suffer the difficulty of being invisible.
400 trillion to
I'm this million nobody.
But it's more important to be nice.
No, you should be capable of it.
Until I started winning.
Cause on a mission, your worst enemy is idle time.
All right, Idle Time Podcast. We are back again. UFC Noche Week. We are here with the little monster herself, the little queen, the little everything. I'm going to fuck up her last name, but let's see if I get it right. Vanessa Demopoulos.
You got it.
All right,
Good
so
job.
I'm fucking good.
Yeah.
So I had to ask her right before we started rolling because that's a name that you can fuck up easy. So just before we get into anything crazy or your whole story, Demopoulos, how many teachers fucked that up growing up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, all of them. Yeah, every time I get a phone call, where someone's trying to say my last name, they're like,
Demogorgon?
I'm like, just Demopoulos.
Yeah.
Like, you just call me Vanessa. It's okay.
Yeah, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Do you have a nickname that's not Little Monster or Vanessa, like V or anything?
Well, my first name is Crystal.
Okay, see, I'm learning new things every day.
Yeah.
So where the hell did the Vanessa thing come from?
It's my middle name.
You just go by it?
Yeah, it's what my family always called me. But then teachers used to call me Crystal. So then, like, if people knew me from school, they'd call me Crystal. And then
Yeah.
if people knew me, like, personally, they'd call me Vanessa.
So that's how you separated the...
Yeah, that's how I used to separate people.
Somebody texts you, is this Crystal? You think to yourself, who the fuck is this?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, you don't really know me.
Yeah, you don't know me enough. You got government names.
Yeah.
All right, so Crystal Vanessa Demopoulos, Little Monster the Third. Tell us about who you are. Who's the little monster? How do you get to this point where a little happy goofball became punching bitches in the face? And so how did we get from, the streets of Cleveland to sunny and Viva Las Vegas?
Yay. Well, Vanessa Demopoulos is a bad bitch who embodies happiness and peacefulness and excitement. I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, and I love life. I'm very grateful. I'm a God-fearing woman.
Okay.
So I feel like I have a lot of spirit in me, and it's just very loud, right? Because spirit is alive. Spirit is loud. So I'm just real loud.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I embrace that. I enjoy it. I have a lot of energy. I'm ADHD maxed out. So I feel like energy can go in whatever direction you choose it to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't control it, it's going to control you, right? So I've taken a lot of time to really put a lot of discipline towards my attitude. And I choose to point it towards positivity most of the freaking time. And then when it's time to turn up and flip that switch, I just keep that intensity of positivity. I just turn it towards violence, right?
There we go.
So I'm always intense. It's just what direction am I putting that energy towards?
So the Hulk said something like that in the first Avengers movie. They're like, Bruce, it's time to get angry. He's like, that's the secret. I'm always angry. He just chooses to control it until it's time to point that, at a right direction. And for you is when you're walking out and it's 20,000 people or Apex, it's time to turn it the fuck on. And it's like, hey, I got this energy now. It's just gonna put it in in your fist and elbows and everything else in training.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
that's good shit. Grass is not greener on the other side. Grass is greener where you water it, and you tend to water it, in prosperity, happiness. Your cup is always half full. So that's a good way to live by. And then when it comes to being God-fearing, God is good all the time. So I definitely agree with that. I don't know which Bible I would follow, because some of the things in the Bible are like off, but God, God is real, and I believe in God.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you gave us your energy and how you, like, what kind of makes you you. Tell us about Cleveland and, like, what brought you to the West Coast, what made you into a fighter. Do you actually enjoy it, or is it something that you just ended up being good at? How did that work out?
Do I enjoy fighting?
Mm-hmm.
It's the best thing that's ever happened in my whole life. I love fighting. Like, I love it with all of my soul. And it's my dream job. It's my dreams coming true. Like, I couldn't be happier than I am to be a UFC athlete. Fighting found me, actually. So growing up, I got into a lot of fights when I was in school. I actually got kicked out of 4 schools in 1 calendar year, mainly for fighting, right? Fighting, getting in trouble, just being completely disrespectful to teachers. Unfortunately, I don't recommend that ever, by the way. But that's who I was back then. And I only ever fought boys, right? So people are like, oh, I bet you used to win a lot of fights. I'm like, nah, I got my ass kicked a lot too, right? But, that's a lot of
Who
like
would start the fights?
me.
You? What would you just make fun of them, call them L7 weenies, or what? How would get the fight started?
Oh, well, okay. So there would always be some sort of like beef or drama, or honestly, most of the time, I would see these people picking on nerds. I'd see them picking on other people who couldn't stick up for themselves, right? And I'd go up and be like, hey, pick on somebody who can actually do something about it. And then I'd sock them, right? So, like, I would start the fights. Like, I would hit them first before they hit me. I stuck up for people a lot. And because I felt like once upon a time I had bullies and I didn't have people who stuck up for me. And eventually I finally punched my bully and I stuck up for myself. And then after that, I was like, I'm going to stick up for other people too, because everybody needs somebody. So
Absolutely agree with you. How did your parents or guardians feel about you just consistently getting kicked out of school and fighting, winning or losing? How do they feel about it?
I was raised by my grandparents growing up, so my parents weren't really around too much. In fact, my mom was a dancer, my mom was a stripper, my dad was a DJ. That's how they met. So their whole lifestyle was like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? And my dad was my best friend growing up, by the way. Like, I could talk to him about absolutely anything. But yeah, my grandparents were my guardians, and it was rough on them. I was just, not disciplined at all. And unfortunately, they kind of broke their heart a few times because they were just trying to do the best that they could, and I just really had an attitude problem and I didn't know how to solve it. I was just an angry kid. So the best I could do was just try to like take their advice, like never hit a girl, right? And I told this story before we came on the podcast, but my grandmother actually told me one time, because I was so strong. Like, I played football in middle school. Like, I was 155 pounds in weightlifting club.
Jeez.
Like, I was a strong kid. I was like one of those 8-year-olds with abs, right? I don't even, doesn't make sense. But she was like, if you ever hit a girl, she's going to go to the hospital. We're going to get sued and lose the house, and you go to an orphanage. So
They scared straight you.
they scared me straight. So I never hit a girl, but I still got into a lot of fights.
There we go. Well, you probably shouldn't have been hitting girls at 155. Yeah, I don't know about the orphanage part, but the rest of it, I think they were on point because you could really hurt somebody. I've seen people get hurt in just basic fights, and most people in middle school have no idea how to fight.
No.
Then you add in school bathrooms and all kinds of weird shit like that. People slip and fall. Add in strength and technique, it could have been a problem. So good for you. But you said you were like angry as hell growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Are you still an angry person? Or is it just somebody has to get out of you?
No, I'm not angry anymore. I don't use that as energy anymore. I don't think that that's sustainable, I think at the beginning of my fight career, I was still really angry. I had a lot of like just energy misplaced energy, I'll say. And I used to use that, right? So it's like you go to walk out of the cage and you try to really psych yourself up and get real mad. And it's like that person, like, there's nothing to be mad at anymore. Like, I live such a beautiful and blessed life today. And I feel like I still have that energy, right? Like, I still have that intensity. I'm just not angry anymore. And unfortunately, like, I see people who are angry and I know where they're at and I can relate, but I'm not that. That's not who I am.
That's good. So when it comes to some of the, let's say, kids, teenagers, and adults here that like struggle with anger issues or anxiety issues, if you had to give like a one sentence or just however you want to say it, advice on what you think can help them. Obviously, everybody's a different case study, and you understand for you it just wasn't the right type of energy source. But what would you give to the people who are struggling with it now and that want to get past it and don't know how to do it and don't have, let's say, fighting as an outlet?
Use it. Use the energy. You have it, and it's a tool, and it's a blessing. God gives all of us our gifts, and that's my magic tool right there, is that insane amount of energy. So find an outlet for it, whether that be educating yourself in something, whether that be like getting obsessed with something and finding a hobby that you truly love with all of your spirit that's going to just drive you into such a positive direction. Because I think that you can create greatness in any single atmosphere, right? If you want to play video games full time and that's what you want to do and that's what you're in love with doing, that can be a career nowadays, right? If you like reading books and you like educating yourself, you can turn that into something so powerful. You can put that into business. You can go to your job and be the best at what you do. But take that energy that you have, that angst, that anxiety, and all that is that's your superpower to go out there and to drive it towards something, right? I think that a lot of people who are depressed and unmotivated, they just haven't found their it. And maybe they are like fish that are trying to climb a tree, right?
Einstein's
And
quote.
they're going into the wrong direction. Once they find what's in their heart and in their spirit to be able to drive them, I found fighting, right? And that's what drives me. But I think that people just need to find what they love. And then once they find that, just attack it with everything in your soul. And I mean, you're going to create something beautiful, no matter what direction you take it into.
Well said. To add on to that, for anybody that might need that advice, sometimes you have to watch your circle. Because if your circle around you would judge you or just doesn't understand that move, that you might have something in your gut that says, "Man, this is probably what I'm good at. I'm just the best grass cutter. I can cut more grass than anybody else." But the people around you think that's weird. Then you will be the average of the company you keep. And the quote she said earlier, Einstein's quote, "If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll grow up its whole life thinking it's stupid." Some of you guys aren't, you guys can climb a tree, but your circle, unfortunately, live in the ocean. And you have to probably get out of that. Doesn't mean you have to leave them all behind, but you have to find your thing, not their thing, that works, or something that is universal amongst everybody. And I've seen a lot of friends that are like that. And it's, black kids growing up in gangs, they find if you find 15 other black kids, what's the one natural thing we all have? Oh, we all from one street. We all from one block. That's the one thing we agree with. He had 2 kids that watch anime. We got 2 kids that skateboard. You got 3 kids that play sports, and you got 2 kids that, let's say fight. Well, all those kids, when they're hanging around each other, if the one thing they have together is the street, that's the one thing that they're going to think is cool. And then that turns into something else. And when one kid who ends up fighting the wrong way, then you got the anime kid, doesn't watch anime as much because the other kids think it's weird. Skateboard kids stop skating as much because it's all about the street. If I want to be friends with these guys, then I guess I got to do what these guys doing versus all you guys coming together and be like, nah, man, that's just great. And I think it's imperative these days because we are very influenced. And with social media, people are overly influenced by everybody's highlight reel. That is social media. It's a highlight reel, like whether we like it or not. That shit is not every day. I'm not saying it's all fake, but it's not about being fake. It's just there's more to the story.
I love what you said, about like you can't just be a product of your circle. You have to be authentic to yourself, right? And I don't know your journey that much, but I know that like myself, everything I always did, I was the weird kid.
Yep.
I was the weird kid.
Same with me. I'm peculiar is what they called it, peculiar.
Yeah.
I'll take it because I see
Yeah.
normal, and honestly, I don't want to be normal.
I don't
Normal
wanna be
people
normal.
commit more suicide than everybody else. Normal people hate their fucking self. Normal people live check to check. People are like, oh, that's not normal. And I'm like, I don't know what I am, but I've seen normal, and I'm okay. I'm okay not being normal. And, I didn't care about being judged. Like, what you eat doesn't make me shit.
Your opinion
and-
doesn't pay my bills.
No, fuck no.
Yeah.
And I'll risk it this way because if listening to you, you listen to you, and your autobiography sucks. Like, wait, I'm not gonna let you write mine too. You don't even like your own. Why the fuck you look like writing mine?
I always mentally wanted to live my life as if somebody was going to read my book, right? And it's like I want them to be entertained.
Yeah.
I love that. Like my life is crazy, but it's definitely something worth reading, right? And it's not normal. It's completely the opposite of that. And I'm proud of that, but it's not easy to do when you're younger, and it's not easy to do when you care about other people's opinions.
Absolutely. You got to be okay with people being disappointed in you, and they might be disappointed for something that has nothing to do with you, and you got to be able to eat that. So I grew up around all gang members, and everybody around me smokes, drinks, or sell drugs, right? I've never been tipsy. I've never been high. Never been drunk, none of that. And so right there, I was the outlier. Right? I remember I was senior year. I went to the nurse for the first time in all of high school because I had like this migraine that just wouldn't go away. So I went to the high school nurse, and she told me I had a hangover. And I was like, I don't have a hangover. She's like, I've been doing this for 18 years. I know what a freaking hangover looks like. You don't got to lie to me. And I just felt so disrespected because if I wasn't a black kid, I like just assuming I'm a thug, right? I grew up a whole sophisticated thug, but thug all the same. And so she sees this little thug walk in, and she instantly puts me on a hangover. Not that I could actually just have a fucking headache. And I'm thinking to myself, first of all, alcohol is disgusting. Like, if you give me like a strawberry daiquiri, I could probably drink it because it tastes good. But other than that, it doesn't actually taste good, and I'm too big to be asking for strawberry daiquiris. So there goes my drinking career, right? I can't walk in a fucking bar and be like, hey, give me the fruitiest drink you got. So I'm like, it's disrespectful. And a lot of people don't believe me. Teachers, friends, employees, nobody ever believes me. And I'm like, that works for me. That means I'm the different one. I'll take being fucking different because you guys, I'm not mad at anybody. Teach his own. I want to see everybody eat, just not at my table sometimes. And I'm happy for everybody. I don't judge. Just don't judge me. And if you do, fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You're gonna stay up all night. Like, for me, like right now, for at least this next 45 minutes, you have a small chapter in your Vanessa book that's called Wolf. And it's a small chapter. And the thing I tell people is, if you meet Wolf, and if you had to fill out the chapter, you're gonna write what you want to put, or I can help you write, more factual shit. Sometimes people meet you, and if you don't give them everything they want to know, or you strike them the wrong way, they're gonna write whatever chapter about you that they want. And you have to stop giving a fuck about what people write. It's a chapter in their book. Like, long as your autobiography sells, you're good. Like, if you're at a job, okay, you have to acquiesce to what they want. Because if you're at a job, you're in their book, you volunteered to be in their book, and you want a spinoff, right? Your chapter has to be so good that you want a spinoff, aka promotion, you want to build something. But if you're not at a place where you're like UFC, you're in the UFC book, you have to play the UFC's game. You have to give them a chapter worth writing, and so you can get a spinoff, so you can be that Ronda Rousey, that Chuck Liddell, that with or without the UFC now, their autobiography is a sellout too.
I ain't trying to be nobody but Little Monster.
There we go.
I'm not trying to be anybody but me, and I can't be anybody else.
Can't be.
Period. Their story's their story. They built that legacy on their own. I'm building my own legacy. I'm building who I am, right? And like you said, there's 1,000 different versions of us in everybody's mind that we meet. I once read in a book, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am, right? Like, we are a collection of other people's thoughts of who we are. Yep. And we start to build ourselves around that. We start to build ourselves around a potential persona that we think other people see us as and that we want to be accepted for.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we are unique, and we are special and we are different, and we all have what makes us us. And I think that sometimes we kind of put that aside because we're like, well, I think that they want me to be this instead.
Yep.
So I can't be me because I got to be what I think they want me to be.
That's how I win
really,
arguments.
authenticity just vibrates so high, right?
You tend to find good people around you, right? Money begets money. When you are genuine, you're going to rub off the wrong way a lot of people because they need some type of emotional reaction out of you. They need something from you that they want. And if you don't give it to them, a lot of people would just rather not be around you because they have to pretend when they're around you. And when you, like, for people, I tell people, if you're an asshole, be an asshole. If you're a weirdo, be a weirdo. I don't mind. Long as you're yourself, then I'll figure out how that works between us, and we can just figure out how our relationship works. But faking around me is never going to be what works because you're going to have to keep it going, and that's going to feel awkward. And then when you finally decide to be your real self, it's going to throw you off because you're not your real self pretty much except that last hour before you go to sleep probably. And even then, if you're on social media, you're probably faking before you go to sleep. What did Jim Carrey say? Depression is your avatar telling the body it's tired of pretending. And I'm like, damn, Jim, like that's a quote. And I can see it. Like that could be a form of depression. Your avatar is telling your body like, yo, we're tired of this. Like, let's stop. Your brain is built to protect you. It will eventually, shut off the lights if you're doing something wrong to it.
Yeah.
And I used to win arguments. I'm not used to still, especially like comes to my sisters and shit. Oh, you think you're special? You think you're this? I'm like, look, I am who I am. Who I'm not, I will never be.
Yeah.
Like, whatever that means to you.
Right.
I am who I am. Right?
It's okay to be brassy. It's okay to be loud, and it's okay to be all of those things, right? But just like you said, be you. But for me to add on to that, I think you also have to have like decent intentions, right? And good intentions don't always lead to good actions. You can have good intentions and still fuck it up. But if you're trying to be a decent human and you're trying to do the right thing,
there's no malice behind
that's
anything.
in your heart, right?
Yeah.
There's no malice. Like, you're not trying to be malicious towards others. I think that it's like just own it, own you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
That's
happy
beautiful.
I'm sitting here. You're a breath of fresh air to talk to, who I would call genuine, and at this point, from the brief encounter of knowing you, a good person.
I appreciate that.
So for the few people I did ask about you before interviewing, nobody has nothing negative to say about you.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Are
so
you
far.
sure?
Now, if
Nobody
I go
call
ask,
me crazy,
so
even
if
a little bit.
Eccentric. If I go ask some of those people back in Cleveland that you punched in the face, they probably have something different to say.
Listen.
But they're probably at a bar right now saying, I used to get punched in the face by her.
That's true.
You're somebody's fucking bar story.
That's true.
Which that works.
That's true.
So,
you don't know how many times like those people from high school will like now like kind of come into the DMs like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. Like, you're the one who made it out. And it's like, that's so crazy. Like out of a whole city, like I'm the one that made it out, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I got a name in Cleveland, and I built that, right? I built that because I was willing to step away. I was willing to do the things that nobody else was willing to do, right? And it's beautiful, and it's so fucking cool. Like, I get to be a superhero to people now, right? Like, I like little girls will look up to me sometimes, and I'm just like, my goodness, like I wanna show you that anything is possible. Like, it doesn't matter where you come from. You can build something. We can do something.
How you start is not how you finish. And people always forget that. And people, like, once you're, like, especially once you're back, like, 20, 30 years old, you're closer to the finish line than you are back to the beginning. Why not just keep moving forward?
Yeah.
But to touch on the hero part, you are going to be a lot of people's hero. You are a lot of people's hero now. Adults, you're some of their heroes. You're some of Cleveland people's hero. You're some of, you're probably a lot of little girls' hero. But who is your hero?
Which is crazy to me because I came from being a stripper. You know, like I was an exotic entertainer for 13 years. Like, I used to travel the whole country doing that and just fighting full time and fighting for my dreams and fighting for myself, but dancing at nighttime so that I could pay for my training, so that I could follow this dream.
It's better than fucking Ubering. It pays better. A lot of fighters Uber in their early career because, it's kind of, without having to be locked into a 9 to 5, you can kind of Uber and still jump into a gym because you can just turn it off. But if you have the body and the fans and the dance moves and the charisma to go and have somebody pay you for how you woke up in the morning, take it.
Hey.
I tell people, like, hey, like, people judge a lot of women, and I'm like, if somebody wants to pay you just because the way you woke up in the morning, you're an idiot not to take it. The fuck, like, so you're going to go work something you hate. If you're going to do something you hate, might as well do something if you don't like stripping, do something you hate that pays more.
That pays more, right?
Yeah, that's weird. But again, it's judgment of other people. It's why, this job I hate, but nobody would say I'm a weirdo. It's like, if you're a broke homeless on the street, they're going to say you're a weirdo anyway.
Right.
So fuck it. Like,
you know what? You could do the absolute best humanly thing, and people are still going to hate on you.
Yeah.
You could literally Google Mother Teresa is bad, and you'll find so many things, and you're like, how?
I told a person I was going to buy a Lambo a couple years ago, and I showed him a picture of it, and he's like, that's the color you're going to get? I'm like, motherfucker.
It's
like,
a Lambo.
Are we really sitting here as a person that, like, might make, like, $14 an hour, and it's not about money. It's not like I'm sizing him up, but I'm just trying to figure out, geez, the fucking Louise. Are we talking about the color right now? I don't care if a pistol in it. It's a Lambo, like, but he's judgmental.
You should have been celebrating the fact that I'm doing
that's how
this.
you can't please everybody. If we walked right now and try to give 100 people a $100 bill, maybe 70 would take it. Some 30 people would still find something wrong with it. No, I'm good, or I think something wrong. You take and try to give a key to a Lambo to 100 people. 100 out of 100 not going to take it. Some people are going to say, I'm not a Lambo person. Some people are going to say, oh, it doesn't have a sunroof. Somehow, something's always wrong. So, yeah, if you live by everybody else's opinion, you're fucked. I heard it's like a parable by this guy named Jay Shetty.
I love Jay Shetty.
Jay Shetty's fucking money.
Yeah.
And since you have a platform, I want you to definitely use this one day for some of the people that need the motivation. It's a way that they condition sharks to live in a tank with fish. So they'll put a shark in a tank, and when the fish inside, obviously, like nature, shark eats the fish. Then they put a glass divider in between the shark and the fish. That shark will beat that divider, over and over again to try to get to the fish. And after a while of doing this, the shark will stop beating that divider because now he's being taught that there's no point, you can't get to the fish. Then they eventually remove that divider, and the shark will still not eat the fish, even though they're swimming all next to his face and all that. And I tell people, if you can condition a shark out of its primal nature, what do you think has been happening to us when you've been told you can't do something, or it's not for you, or you're gonna lose, or your parents are like, that's dumb. I'm your parent, you should know, I know better. Sometimes parents do that to kids. Sometimes other adults do it to their friends. You got girlfriends that are cock blocking their homegirl because they can't get the guy. They got guys doing the same thing to their friends. So you got a litany of things in your whole life that are your glass divider. And you're wondering why something's not working. A lot of these people are still fucking sharks. They need a fucking reminder. And you have a big platform, the podcast is building, and if you one day get somewhere, use that story and let some of these people know they're still fucking sharks. Just they've hit so many glass dividers, they forgot they know how to eat fish.
Dang, I love that so much, man.
So
you don't even understand. So there's times where I start to talk about my story, right? Because I've done the drugs, I've been in the strip club industry, I've done these things, I've been homeless, and I think about it and it's I'm not even that person anymore, right? I'm so far removed from that human that used to mess up all the time. And I feel like I completely reprogrammed myself, but in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Where people would hit the glass, I'm I had to condition my mind, that glass doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I'm not a victim to my barriers that I previously had. I'm not a victim to my previous circumstances. And I had to continuously remind myself of that and listen to mentors and take guidance from people that were in more successful positions than myself.
100%.
But that reprogramming was everything in life.
It's needed.
It's so needed.
And it's more needed than people really understand. And your average person needs some sort of reprogramming from something.
And we all need it, and we always continue to need it. You're never done, right? You're always continuing to grow, and I hope that we're always continuing to grow. If I ever get to a point in my life where I feel like I have everything figured out, listen, just be done with it, right? Because I feel like that's the part of life's adventure, is the growing, is the becoming, is the overcoming. We need struggle. We genuinely, our human need is some struggle to overcome.
Success and failure are duality. They are two sides of the same coin, but most people try to avoid failure. And I tell people, so we can classify Steve Jobs as a person, as a genius for making the iPhone, or what if he just failed way more time than you did? So technically, he's just the biggest failure at making phones too, at making an iPhone. Hey, I tell people this chair, it looks intricate to make, but for a chair maker, they're like, oh no, it's just a few pieces. When somebody's already failed 1,000 times at doing it, are they technically great at something, or did they just figure out how not to do it? And it's all about what wordage you want to use, right? What verbiage you want to use, but they are the same thing. And humans are very similar. So we got good and evil. There's a weird word. Let me see if I can remember it. Agakakological.
Oh, I have never heard this word in my life.
It's a weird-ass word, but I love it because it's weird.
Help me.
What
is the definition of this weird-ass word?
Something composed of good and evil. And I think Thomas Hobbes kind of talked about it as a philosopher, but humans we have the capacity for evil for sure. But we also have the capacity for good, and it's there's another parable. I'm full of these things. It's a Disney movie, I think, called Tomorrowland or something like that. I think it's George Clooney. He's talking to his it's a father and a daughter, but the movie has George Clooney, and he's telling his daughter, there's two wolves. You have the wolf of prosperity, joy, happiness. Then you got the wolf of sorrow, defeat, and anguish. Which wolf survives? And most people, when I ask them that question, they say, oh, the happy one. It's the wolf you feed. And unfortunately, we are taught to feed a lot of the times the wrong wolf. Media, social media, friends, family, and that includes parents. For those out there, I love your parents if you love your parents, but sometimes your parents do not know what's best for you when it comes to your career, what's next. If your parents made $2 million a year, you know who can't teach you how to make $3 million? Your parents. Because if they knew how to make 3, they wouldn't be making 2. Sooner or later, there has to be something else.
Well, your parents are just kids that were raised by people that didn't have people to raise them, right? So it's like your parents are doing the best that they can with the tools that they had provided, right? And I mean, you hope that they're doing the best that they can, but sometimes their best just kind of didn't have the right information.
Their best might
and
be your
okay.
20%.
You gotta love them where they're at, right?
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean that you have to be a victim to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it means you can go past your parents. It's okay. And sometimes your parents are gonna make it seem not to go past. I've met people where their parents didn't want them to take a certain job, and they're like, no, just go do truck driving. It's simple. You can make money. You don't have to worry about it. They're like, no, I want to like try to be rich. Like, why would you try to be rich? That's dumb. Like, why would you try to like make? Why try to make 90,000? That's not realistic. And I'm like, 90,000. That's California. You're going to go broke.
Right.
I grew up in San Diego. Like you're going to go broke in 90,000. But they don't know no better. It's not malicious, like we said. It's just sometimes where their level is. You can't tell big dreams to small-minded people, and sometimes they're small-minded because it's how they came up. Different generations. We're only 2-3 generations away from TV not existing. Like their generation, radio and newspapers were considered like state of the art. We have internet and we can talk to people across the world. We're not the same. And then even our presidents, 77 years old. When our president was in high school, school was segregated. There's still white and black water fountains. There's levels of what the president really understands about what's going on today. But yet they are the leader of the free world, influencing how things work. You have to, like, again, deprogramming and just find the right circle. You cannot soar with eagles hanging out with chickens. And I think Joel Osteen said that one.
That's nice. So long, my everybody always thought that fighting was just the dumbest thing. They thought it was just a hobby. They're like, when are you going to go get a real job?
Yeah.
When are you going to go work in a factory, make some money,
Oil
get something
rigs and
stable
stuff.
in your life, get something stable? I'm like, forget stability. Like, this is what I love. Like, take it serious. And then I started fighting on TV before I was in the UFC, like the LFA.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, maybe she's really serious about this. You know, like they thought it was just like one of my ADHD kicks.
Yeah, one of the random phases.
Yeah. I'm like, no, like I'm really going to do this. I'm going to take it to the top. And I remember I got to do jiu-jitsu in Abu Dhabi. And I'm like, they are flying me across the world to do a sport. And they're like, oh, okay.
That you would have did anyway.
But how much money did you make doing this? And I'm like, guys, like, can't you tell, like, this is going to become something? Like, I see the vision. They can't see your vision for you.
Yeah.
That's up to you to chase that, right? Because they thought it was just some cute little thing that I was doing, and they just couldn't wait for me to go and do something better with my life. And I'm like, this is the something better that I'm doing with my life.
So a lot of those people in Cleveland telling you get stability, I always tell people, like, because I've heard it too. I did
And
sales.
like, how's your stability working out for you?
I did sales and I did commission and, get a real job. Oh, my God, I went homeless. I slept in my car. I've shit on the fucking sidewalk. I've done the worst. I've robbed people. I've pistol whipped people. I was a fuck up.
I hear you.
Right?
Same.
It's not malice even behind there. It's like, at this point, it's me or you. And I know I'll have to repent for it. And I know, like, karma will come for me for some of these events. But at this moment, I got to eat. But I would tell people when I'm doing commission, like, get a real job or you're going to go back that way. I'm like, it's weird. Like, places like New York, right? Big staple of the world we're supposed to visit. Those stability people don't visit New York. Those people in Cleveland, I tell people, there's more foreigners visiting our major cities than we actually visit our major cities. People in New York either live in New York or it's a bunch of, like, most of the tourists are not from the United States because we're stability. I tell people, entrepreneurship here, it's like a veto world in the United States, in the Western civilization. The rest of the world, entrepreneurship is normal. Get in where you live. I always tell people, when do you ever see, like, Middle Eastern, like, employees? Like, I want you to think last time you see a Middle Eastern guy pushing a shopping cart. Like, not
They all own little businesses.
Yeah,
and they may be small businesses.
You see them working is they're working for each other. Asian communities will come together. They, like, multiple families come together and put up money into a pot and then open a business. In like a little strip mall, and then they'll keep putting money into a pot, including the person who owns the business, and into each person eventually, and then they end up owning the whole strip mall. Like you see the hair store, the clothes store, this store, little Asian market. They come together. Unfortunately, black people and Mexicans, the my culture, we don't do that at all. We can't wait to see somebody else fail so we can make ourselves feel better. And Italians don't really do that. Samoans don't really do that. You know, they don't let you really go too far down the rabbit hole. White people, from what I've seen, try to help, and then there's some people that just fight it too much. But sometimes their help is be like us or else. And that's not help for some people who are trying to be different. Because part of the reason I'm like this is because I don't want to be like that. Like, I'm not mad. Like, I see you guys have 2 cars, a 2-parent household, and you guys have a nice house in the suburbs, and that's good. But to be great, you got to give up good, and that's the problem.
That's right. That's
to
right.
To be great, you got to give up good. They do not mix.
No.
And a lot of people work and I'm not mad at them, but middle class is a trap. Robert Kiyosaki wrote the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and he said, like, middle class is a trap, and he said it a long time ago, 20+ years ago, and how right he was. Poor people don't feel recessions. Oh, it's a recession. I grew up, and every time we went through a recession, I never knew we were in a recession because we can't take what we don't have. The fuck we take? What recession?
I was hungry before the recession.
Yeah,
I'm hungry during the recession.
Government assistance still works, and the liquor store is still a liquor store. Donut shops still. I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about.
Right.
And then rich people don't feel recessions. They're rich. You know, they got investments. They got donors and fundraisers, and they're not worrying about it. Most of their things are paid off, or it's good debt. Middle class is the one that gets destroyed. Yeah. So that suburb family telling us to get a real job, it's like, but you guys also, you make $100,000 a year, you get taxed 45% of it. So now you made 55. Your car payment's about, 10 for the year. Your groceries, gas and electric are about another 10. So now you're at about 35. Your insurance, cell phone, about another 2. You save about $10,000 a year. If you have a kid, you're already negative.
Right.
I'm talking single family, and that's $100,000 a year salary. But when you go home, you feel good because you have your nice house, you keep up with your neighbors, you guys go out, you go to the dog park. But I want to visit fucking Dubai.
Yes.
When you get to, if somebody's flying you out for free to visit places that other people have to save 3 years for, I feel like one person made the right decision and the other one made a good decision.
Right. And I got to love people where they're at because, again,
Yeah.
it's like they didn't have the other options. Like, they didn't know the other way.
They didn't
seek it.
They didn't seek.
They didn't seek
it's
it.
always
we both
out
said the
there.
same thing at the same time.
Yep. But they didn't
They
seek
didn't
it. And I didn't say a lot of people didn't seek because they were being, again, conditioned to stay normal.
Yeah.
Or they didn't seek because they were just happy where they're at. And again,
I was going to say, maybe they just didn't have the ambition.
I am happy if you're happy. But when you see, like, the Lambo on the freeway, if you're like, oh, my God, look at the Lambo. I'm the type of person I used to turn my friend's head. Don't look at the Lambo. You're not a Lambo person. Like, if you're happy with what you got, I'm happy if you're happy, but don't look at Lambos. False hope also kills you, too. Like, if you're never going to get past $18 an hour because you think this is perfect, then I don't judge you, and I'm not, my more money or less money doesn't make a difference. But you see that Honda? Look at the Honda. Look at the Hyundai.
Micro goals to the big goals, honestly. Because you got to, you do have to be realistic. You need something that you're going to, it's a little bit out of your reach, but it's not so far out of your reach that you'll get disappointed in yourself for not getting there, right? So, like, you need little micro goals, right? Like, you need something that's going to stretch you, but that you can still attain.
Yeah. So
and then you move the goal, right? Like, you can only see to the horizon until you walk to the horizon, and then you can see farther, right?
You ever heard this word? I already gave you the gakikakological, but there's another word. It's called masturbation.
Ooh, that one sounds interesting.
I know you
that
know the
sounds
other
weird.
one. I know you know
what
the
I'm
other
thinking.
one. Yeah. We've all done the other one, but we've all done this one too. So we're definitely, everybody's a chronic masturbator.
Interesting.
So masturbation is where it's a term coined by philosopher Albert Ellis, and it's where we make should statements and must statements. It's living in absolutes where I must do this, or like say somebody cuts you off in traffic and you get upset. He must have saw me, like, or he should. And it's like sometimes leave it more open versus absolutes. People do this to themselves all the time where it's like, I need to get in shape. The problem is you could say getting in shape would be beneficial to me. But if you say I need to get in shape, you made it absolute. The problem is the absolute is now in the ether. If you don't end up getting in shape, then now what you're left with, you're a fucking failure. And that goes into this book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. He talks about, I think these two go together perfectly, because he talks about creating the yang to every yin. He says when you guys put something in the air, if you're like, damn, I got to go to the gym, what you've created in your head, whether you like it or not, is that you're out of shape. And so you've created the yang to the yin. And so you, at this point, you need to learn how to be more indifferent about things, because if you don't end up doing the yin, you're stuck with the yang is not going anywhere. Well, my friend should have known it was my birthday and they should have called me. Versus, now you're making yourself mad because they should have. Versus, it would have been nice for her to call me and I would have thought she'd known. You leave it more open to there's possibilities of why a person wouldn't call you. And the biggest way to help get out of that is, if it was your friend thinking that, what advice would you give them? And a lot of times we would give them advice, hey, it's okay, like it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes people forget, but we don't give ourselves that advice when we're telling ourselves these things. Oh, yeah. Masturbation and thinking in absolutes are a way to destroy your brain. And a lot of times it will stop people's push to the next level. They must, again, the glove grab, you want to say like she must have known, or he must have saw it, or the ref, must have seen it, versus.
No, she did know it.
Yeah, she
knew.
knew.
For sure.
She knew.
I'm yelling. I'm screaming. Here's the thing. All right, she's a gay girl, right? So my brain was like, well, that's just an autopilot, right? It's an autopilot. Cool. But I'm screaming it. I'm telling the world that it's happening. The ref is literally right there in my face watching it happen. She uses that, holds it, controls the position to flip over to take the armbar, and then lets go of it? Come on now. Listen, I can understand a mistake, right? I understand that it happened, but you got to take your fingers out once it's addressed. If it was a mistake, she kept it. That was a choice, right? The referee seeing it and then not doing nothing about it, I understand that's human error. But then you see the replay. Now it's a choice. So that's where I'm confused.
And then the press conference to be like, I'm proud of myself, and pretty much deny,
I can sleep well
unequivocally,
at night.
like, nah, that didn't really happen. It made no difference. And it's like, it can make a difference. Now, you got to protect yourself at all times and not give up your arm is what people are going to tell you. Protect yourself at all times.
You try it.
Why give out your arm? Leverage
I couldn't not.
There is leverage.
It was about, like she used that to attain that position. She didn't let go of the glove until her leg was already over my face for a full armbar. Like that.
It's simple.
It's a crazy grip. It's a crazy grip that people don't really understand unless you've trained jiu-jitsu.
You put a handle on it's like putting a handle on your arm somebody can pull versus just wrist control.
Right.
And leverage is leverage. If you're trying to lift up, let's say you're trying to lift up a 50-pound medicine ball, it's hard to lift. Or even a TV, you know how awkward TVs are. What if there's handles in the back that you can grip your fingers in? It's so much easier to lift. Well, imagine an arm having pretty much a handle being tugged on and pulling. It's leverage where you like. It's a reason why it's illegal. How about that? Fuck everything else. There's a reason why you're not allowed to do it, because it gives you an advantage over somebody, which can lead to somebody getting hurt. So that one's tough.
Now I know that rules don't matter. I'll move forward with that mindset. It's okay.
Rules don't matter. So speaking of
just
no rules.
Just like in life, rules don't matter. You just kind of got to do things sometimes and ask for forgiveness later. And apparently sometimes you get forgiveness, right? Because she did.
Timing works.
So you just got to keep moving forward with your damn life, because I can't keep living in the past on this, right? If my brain is always focused on, well, what happened and that was so unfair and woe is me, life doesn't care about your excuses. Life doesn't care that you want to live in your rearview mirror. Right? There's life happening right now. We're having new moments, right? I got new opportunities to look forward to, like that I'm looking ahead of, right? Like now I get to fight jiu-jitsu for a title for the PGF that I'm looking forward to at 125. I'm going to go out to Abu Dhabi and help commentate the ADXC, right? Like I have other potential UFC things that I get to look forward to. So it's like I got to just keep my eyes forward. Like that shit pissed me off. And I took my few days of silence because I'm not going to react when I'm still angry, in anything. Like if I'm in a relationship with somebody and some crazy stuff happens, like I need to stop and reset and gather my thoughts, because we're both going to say something that we don't mean, right? And you can't take words back once they're out of your mouth. There's no retraction. So let me just pause and then we'll come back to this, right? And not everybody operates that way. But I took my few days of silence. I didn't say nothing on social media, tried to take the high route, because at the end of it, like, I really do hope that the commission does the right thing and overturns that decision, right? But I've heard that it's easier to move a mountain than it is for people to admit that they were wrong and correct their mistakes.
They're not going to overturn it. And again, I don't want to speak for them, but I think it's been a week. They're going to overturn it. I think they would have did it. I think, and because you took the silence, you didn't go and overly complain. It's one of those.
I overly complained to 2 people.
2 people. Okay, that helps.
I just didn't take
Well, social media moves more of a needle of anything.
Listen, social media is also like, those trolls are.
They are fucking nuts.
But you know what though? Everything that I've saw, they're on my side, and ESPN did me right. Thank you, ESPN. Like, they really did do me right. Like, they made a post about it. They zoomed in on it.
I saw the post.
I love them for that. Like, that was incredible.
I mean, that's how I knew. That's where I saw it. I mean, it was clear. It was clear as day.
Clear as day.
Clear as day.
Because when it was happening, like when the fight was happening, people were still a little bit confused. But then when you slow it down and you see the replay, you see the glove being twisted. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I didn't try to escape. Like, I mean, it's plain as day.
Well, you were in good spirits yesterday when I saw you at the PI. So
Thanks.
Those couple of days.
I'm genuinely in good spirits.
Those couple of days of silence, like you said, you figured out how to keep yourself, reprogram yourself for walking around the old little monster, the angry little monster that might go and start maybe like keying cars or some shit. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, she crazy. I don't want to see her no more.
So, question about the stripper days. You ever, like, beat them up in the back if they talk too much shit?
Damn.
The dressing room, beating up girls back there?
No, but I would beat up people that were wilding out, right? So, like, I used to almost fight the girls a lot, but then it was like the girls that be crazy and they get too drunk and then they try to fight the bouncers.
Yeah.
The bouncers would call me over, or like other strippers would come up and be like, hey, you gotta go handle this, right? Because like the bouncers can't hit these females, but I can, right? And I would never punch people. I would just grab them and choke them unconscious. I'd have to choke out a lot of dudes that would run off on me on money, or like be a little bit too grabby, like you grabbed the wrong one. I tell you to keep your hands to yourself a few times, but after that, I'm picking you out.
You know how men are. If a woman smiles at a man, they're like, oh, I can hit. It's like, oh, shit, she smiled at, she must want me.
She must want me. Yeah.
Like, I just.
Yeah. She wanted to dance for me.
I knew I looked good today.
I didn't know I owed her money.
Yeah, it's men. Men are not all there when it comes to women.
Yeah.
I always tell people, especially once you break like 33, 34 years old, and especially older, most men outside of their family members, their daughter, their wife, their sisters, and let's say coworkers, most men don't actually have interaction with females that are not in that category. Like, if you really sit here and thought about it, unless you work in a certain industry, where does your average man that goes home, goes to work, goes home, goes to work, where does he have interactions with a female that's not a coworker, which obviously is limited, or family members? And then you get women walk up to them and say, in any industry, strip club or on a street corner, it might just be waving, like doing advertisements, saying, smiling and waving. He's like, oh my God. Like, I think, what's the number one search thing on the internet?
Is it porn? I don't know. Is it porn?
Porn.
Right.
Only thing.
I thought that was the direction we were going.
I think since internet has been existing, the number one search thing has been porn. I think Michael Jackson was the first person to break porn when he passed away. I think it was the number one search thing, which speaks to him. Shout out Michael Jackson. But now you have to think. So, and men are predominantly the ones Googling this. So you got these men that have been yanking it to people like you, to little blonde girls like yourself, and then you smiled at them in person. They have no idea how to handle this.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you got women don't put it together that they were at home like doing all kinds of bad things to people that look just like you.
Yeah.
Then you guys smiled and you know their name and you looked at him and said hello and maybe even give them a little rub on the chest. They're gonna lose their fucking mind.
Well,
so just to like not give us an excuse.
I was the one to check them when they lost their fucking minds.
No, yeah.
Like,
this is not the internet, sir.
With the girls, again, it's like, if they wild out a little bit too much and the bouncers needed help,
they needed somebody to wrangle in the cattle.
I was always the one that they called to. So because I was sober too.
Okay,
that helps. I never drank, especially when I worked. Like, I have drank, and even now, like, I don't drink. I choose not to. But
good for you.
I would work sober, so if they ever needed somebody, they always knew that they could,
somebody who's fully not mind altered and actually can, wrangle in the cattle.
Yeah, without hurting them.
Without hurting.
Right? Because I'm not trying to maliciously hurt you, but you need to calm down.
Yeah.
So,
You can put them in their place.
That's
That's
right.
all that matters.
That's right.
So, which more lucrative, being a stripper or your first few fights? Because I know early fights are you don't get paid much. Maybe $700 to show, $700 to win, maybe $1,000 on a good promotion. LFA pays a little bit more, but I think the minimum in the UFC is like still $12,000 or $15,000 to show, and then you got to win, and then you got to hope for a fight of the night bonus. So, I just saw something that all the OnlyFans creators make more money than every NBA player combined. So if you combine all OnlyFans, all NBA OnlyFans total make more. Obviously, there's thousands more.
I was gonna say though, not everybody makes good money.
Yeah,
on
the numbers are
OnlyFans.
skewed.
Some people make great money,
It's
right?
like 70% of those. It's like 70% of that income is probably 20% of the people.
Exactly.
But obviously, you don't want to be a stripper forever. But
No.
was it
So
weird to go
I
from there to
used
make
to
less money
I used
fighting?
to make more money dancing, and I used to actually pay to fight, right? Because it was like I could have doubled my money had I gone to work.
Yeah.
But instead, I chose to go fight somebody, right?
So
there
you're
was
losing
nights
twice.
where I would fight somebody and then go to work afterwards because I was like, I actually have to go make some money right
Yeah.
now because you don't make money
Anybody
fighting.
ever question the bruises or anything, or did you more do it when you weren't really
Oh,
hurt?
I'm an expert at makeup. When it comes to covering things up, oh yeah, that whole like color theory is real, right? So like you put a little bit of red lipstick over it,
Yeah.
and then you pat that over with some concealer. You make it work, right?
There's not too much light in there.
It's not too much lighting in there.
I've only
And
been
then
in strip
the
club
one
once.
time I had so many stitches. I had like 20 stitches on my face, right? And this was after one of my LFA title fights against Lupi Godinez. Love that girl.
Lupi.
So I had to go to work, right? And I have all these stitches on my face, but I wore thick framed glasses. And I put the makeup around the stitches, and
Yeah.
it was like right around Halloween time too.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like low key playing it off, and like I made it work. I made it work.
I've been in a strip club one time when my buddy graduated from high school. We took him to a strip club. It's never my thing. I used to go to TJ a lot, Tijuana, and people were like, let's go to Hong Kong and all these strip clubs that are known. I used to tell people like, something about paying people not to touch them. That's just not my like. And I was never desperate for women, so I was like, I can just go home and also touch somebody for free and do the rest of it. Like, so for me, it wasn't a thing. But one of the most, I think it's the number one place deals get made, is they said handshake deals get made in strip clubs are the number one place, and in golf courses are number two.
Oh yeah.
So
I
as
can
an
see that.
entrepreneur, I
could
probably
definitely
need
see
to.
that.
A lot of business people go there as they're like signing the deal meetings. So
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, maybe that should be my excuse to go start signing fucking deals and find fucking business people. But it was never my thing to go. Just wasn't. But I always knew that you guys get paid if you do it right. And like I said, I was never judgmental. Like, what can you judge? Like, somebody's work. There's a man right now, as we speak, working at 9 to 5 just to give it to some female. So you purposely trying not to be the female, to me, is not smart either. He's gonna give it away to somebody. If he wants to give it to you because you know how to dance to a beat, and you're okay with being in the nude or in a bikini, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I actually wrote a book called Stripper Bible, and it's a
Should have brung it. We could have had it.
Yeah, right. I should have brought my book with me. It's a how-to for girls to make money without compromising their values, because
Good shit.
everybody's got a different code of morals. But no shame to girls that want to do more, and no shame to the girls that want to do less. Right?
100%.
I personally preferred to do less, so I wrote the book for girls that wanted to do less and still make more.
There we go. See,
Yeah.
shout out to you for understanding
I
both
was trying to
ends.
help. I was trying to
understanding
help.
both ends of the spectrum, and be like, hey, there's a way to do both, and you don't have to do this,
There's a
but if
place
you
for
want
everybody.
to, there we go. Now to the UFC. You did LFA when the UFC first called. What was that like feeling? What was it like? Is this real, or did you kind of like, were you indifferent about it? Like, I've already earned this. I knew they were calling. What was that feeling?
Man,
It's the number one three-letter
I
company.
genuinely remember the moment, right? I was getting ready for a fight in the LFA, and Jason House, my current manager, called me, and I'm like in the parking lot doing my medicals, and I just dropped to my knees and I started crying. And then I just like got up and I started running around the parking lot. And I was like, no way, dude. No way. Are you kidding me right now? Are we really doing this? This is insane. I had signed with him literally like the week before. No exaggeration. I signed with him 1 week. We were in the UFC the next week.
Shout out to Iridium. They fucking move the needle.
They really do. Yeah.
They move the fucking needle.
I love them so very much.
What brung you to Iridium in the first place?
So Jason is just an amazing human being. Like, he really is just a good person, right? He has the best intentions for everybody. And Jason and I actually got our black belt from the same professor, Jiva Santana. So I've known about Jason for a really, really long time. I was signed with another management company prior, and they did a lot of good things for me. But I just needed like a little bit more. And my professor, I would literally go into training and he's always like, you got to sign with Jason. You have to sign with Jason. And I'm like, but things are kind of going okay for me right now. He's like, no, like I know that they're going okay, but it could be going better.
They gave up good to get great type of thing.
Yeah, and I really did. I had to have those conversations, you know, like, and I really wanted to sign with Jason. And he wouldn't even talk to me, right? Like, he was like, you're not even available right now, right? Like, imagine being in a relationship and trying to kind of get into another relationship. He was like, you're not single, right?
Yeah.
So he really like made me have that conversation before I even opened up that door with him, right? So I needed
Shout out to him for doing business the right way too.
He did business the correct way. Yes.
I'm gonna have him on, and I want to talk to him about that. You know, because you hear things about people doing bad business, and everybody has something negative to say. And you know, I've heard negative things about Jason from random sources that probably don't even know who the fuck he is or don't know much about him. But from meeting him a few times I met him, and from everybody else that actually knows him, so nobody has anything negative to say. They all say thank you. That's the biggest thing.
I've seen this man cry for other people's success, right? I've seen him get so heartbroken for other people's failures. Like, Jason fucking cares. Like, he gives all of the shits. Like, that man is trying to help people. He's trying to put people in the best position. Like, I love that guy, you know? Like, I don't think he knows how much I love that guy. I don't think he knows how much I love him.
I'll send this clip to him, and we'll make sure Iridium post it.
I love you, Jason. Yes.
So we walked in yesterday in the office, and he was getting cupping done.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I was like, you know what? I need to go. So I went to another person, but I got something done yesterday, and just watching him operate around his people, watching how everybody walks in and the natural respect they have. Shout out to Iridium. I don't work with him, but I've been working around Iridium for like the last few months, and so far so fucking good, man. Even the little thing that you would say is kind of throw you off, if you mention it, they you know, our bad actually, and then they make up for everything. That it's hard to find a place that's growing the way they're growing, still have old school humility. Because a lot of times you can say, well, we're Iridium, fuck everybody else. You know, we don't. Nah, that's not the vibe. The vibe is always, we know, we value every fighter from the lowest ones to the highest ones. And, you know, if you have one of the kinks or links in the chain is weak, the whole chain goes. And I think they very big on making sure all the links are strong and sturdy. Yeah. So good shout out to them. I'm glad they brought you in, because then it got you to the UFC, and the UFC got you here, and I'm happy to have you as well.
Thank you.
And we're gonna definitely get you another fight without no glove bullshit.
Hey, listen.
We needed the whole classic jumping Joe Rogan's arms thing. You can see that threw him off definitely the first time he did it. So,
he was so sweet though. He was so kind.
I've never met Joe Rogan. I've met a lot of people. Never met Joe Rogan.
I actually got to spend some quality time with him after one of his comedy shows. That I can see why, and it was no cameras, you know, just like us, you know, a few other people around. That's one of the most genuine humans. I was like, I can see why you're so successful. Like, he cares about people. Like, he cares. It doesn't seem like
he has a reason to come off as an asshole or to play. Like, he has his own success. He's been relevant for, you know, since I was a fucking child. He's trained. He knows he can take your average human being if he needs to. So why walk around? He doesn't have to walk around rah-rah, but you also don't. He doesn't come off as a person you could bullshit either.
No, Joe.
He's like, hey,
Joe
you're not gonna bullshit me either. So
he's a good human being, like genuine. That man loves his family. You know, like he loves the people that are around him. He's loyal. Like that's a good human right there.
Good
yeah.
shit. Shout out to Joe fucking Rogan. We're going to get into our segments. We're going to see if we can stump you up in some of these fucking brain teasers.
Hey, listen, I hope I'm intelligent enough to handle
before
these brain
we get out of
teasers.
it.
Let's
So,
go.
the segment is called Sip Happens by Gelato Pure Water. Drink Gelato. So Gelato makes a water. It's pure water from spring water. We're going to ask you some brain teasers, maybe 3 or 4 of them, give or take on how good you are. If you get it wrong, you got to take a sip. Camera A, Gelato. If you get it right, then I have to take a sip. Gelato does have tequila, but a lot of you guys are driving and got fights. We don't want you guys getting drunk off of a podcast. But eventually, depending on the guest, we'll probably have the sip happens with Gelato tequila instead of water. But water's good, right? Water's always good.
I like water.
I have to ask every fighter this. Your Mount Rushmore or your favorites, you can choose which one. Your Mount Rushmore of MMA fighters of all time. And then I'll ask you another question after that, and then we'll wrap up. Who is Little Monster's Mount Rushmore?
Number 1, Mighty Mouse.
Mighty fucking Mouse.
Mighty Mouse.
Shout out.
How many people get to be on Mount Rushmore?
You can go 4 or 5.
4 or 5?
5 is always the bubble.
Okay, I'm putting DC on there.
You're better than me.
Definitely putting DC on there. I think, man, if Conor had just stopped fighting like 5 fights ago.
If Conor doesn't take the Mayweather fight.
You know what? I think Dustin Poirier belongs on there. That man is so good, so well-rounded.
50 fucking fights. Gets better every fight.
Every fight?
Every fight he's better.
No,
You know how
period.
hard it is to get better? 50 fights. Sometimes you plateau. DP does not plateau.
You know who else belongs on here? Blessed.
The blessed one.
Max Holloway.
Talk about another person that gets better like fine fucking wine.
Yeah.
Fine Hawaiian wine.
Fine Hawaiian wine.
It's a blessed man forever. The BMF.
For real.
Yeah.
That man is so good at fighting. He's got like a really like high caliber black belt in jiu-jitsu that he never uses.
He's too good at striking.
He's too good at striking. You
Throw
never even
400
need to use it.
throw 400 punches in a fight and land 350 of them. Where the fuck do you need to go on the ground for?
Right.
So, but
and I mean, of course, John Jones.
John Jones is up there.
Yeah,
So
John
the
Jones
GOATs
up
for me are John Jones and DJ. You can go 1, 2, doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
After that, Anderson Silva. If we're going GOATs, then
Silva,
Anderson
okay.
Silva. And then
Okay,
4,
okay.
4 for me is Amanda Nunes.
Yeah. Okay.
She's the most dominant person that's not John Jones in MMA history. Yeah, but she is female, so she doesn't get the love. But name somebody who was more dominant, like just all around dominant. DC was
agree.
dominant like that for a while. That's why I can put DC on the bubble. My bubble is the GSPs, the Habibs,
Yeah.
the DCs, the Stipes. They're on the bubble of like, you could pick any other one, and nobody's gonna argue no matter who you pick. But Amanda Nunes, if we're going 4 only, for me, she has to be in the 4 because even when she lost to the Vixen, did she though? Like
Right.
she didn't even have the choke in. Amanda was gassed and was ready to go, and she made it a point by next fight of, let me show you what happens when I actually prepare. And it was a good fight, but
she was
Amanda,
probably just sick that day. It's okay.
yeah,
It's okay. It happens.
and again, the Vixen's a great fighter too. I think she takes the belt from Pena, but Amanda is Amanda. Like, we're not gonna pretend. But my favorite fighter to watch actively is DP. I told him that. I made a post about it. If I had to pick somebody to watch on television, it's always DP.
Yeah.
The dude is just.
DP, Gaethje, and Holloway.
He's one of the
For
best.
me, I can watch
As a
those
man,
3
he's a good
any
person.
day.
As a man, as a fighter, he's even better as a fighter than he is as a man. He's a great man. So what can you say about people like that? So fucking DP. Obviously, Gaethje is every fighter's favorite fighter. And then Max Holloway, I mean, he's the fucking highlight reel.
Yeah.
He's the real highlight fucking reel. Max Holloway has highlights out of this world. So last question for you. If I put you in, I'm going to give you 5 fighters and about put you in the room. So I put you in a room with Andre Fili, John Jones, Manny Nunes, Chris Cyborg. Who walks out of the room?
Fuck.
Weapons
Listen.
allowed. Weapons allowed.
Weapons allowed? Me, I'm psycho. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
No, I'm definitely fucking crazy. Like, I don't give a shit about rules. If weapons are allowed and everything's out the window, there's no rules allowed, it's a street fight, I'm killing people.
Cyborg looks like you can stab her and she smiles. That's the way she looks. Now she's
does.
she's a sweetheart
She's
in real
actually
life.
a sweetheart.
People
yeah.
don't understand that because she looks all scary. She's one of the nicest
No, but
people
I don't know.
I've ever met.
On some real, I think John Jones.
John Jones.
Yeah.
I think John Jones walks
He's
out of
also
every room
crazy.
on this planet.
He's also crazy. So.
Every room's on the planet, sober or not sober. John Jones walks out the fucking room.
But I think Andre Feely's got a chance though.
Andre Feely has a chance. Hey, look, he's against John Jones. We'll give
So
him
that
a
you
fighter.
guys don't know, Andre's right on the other side of the camera.
Yeah,
so.
we'll give him a puncher's chance. You just got to distract him with a big booty Latina, and you're good.
Listen.
That's it.
You got to strike anybody with a big booty Latina, and then.
That's it. But Little Monster, I appreciate you coming
Thank you
on.
so much.
We
Thank
had
you
you in the
guys.
hot sun waiting for the damn setup, but you stayed
Yes.
here patient.
We are here.
And I really do appreciate you.
Thank you,
And we'll
thank
have
you.
a part 2 one of these days. Maybe we'll go to Cleveland and do it and have like 30, 40 people that you know like come and watch it.
Nah, fuck
And do
that.
it.
Fuck
No?
Cleveland,
Fuck
man.
Cleveland?
No, we're over it. And I love the meeting of the minds that we had here, though. That was dope. Yeah,
it was a
cool.
breath of fresh air to talk about something outside of fighting as well. Some fighters don't know shit outside of fighting. I've learned that. They're not media trained. They can fight, but they're not smart. And here we are, and we were able to like hopefully motivate people like us or people who can get to that point. So thank you
Yes.
for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh man, this is great.
Get a pic real quick.
Yeah, we gotta get a pic, and then I gotta get you saying Vanessa on Idle Time podcast.
Let's go.